individuals who have come out on such a rainy, cold day. This isn't quite as bad as being at the inauguration. It was colder sitting outside that morning, but this is pretty cold for San Francisco. So thank you all for being here this morning for the opening of the Rubicon Program's San Francisco One-Stop Career Link Center. I am Barbara Rogers, and some of you might recognize me from what used to be my day job. I will be your MC today. Before we get going with the program, may I ask you to join me in a round of applause for our entertainment this morning, Mr. Jim Larkin and the Jim Larkin Group. Only in the Fillmore could you start your morning with jazz. Thank you, gentlemen. And I'd also like to thank Fire Station 5, local Fire Station 5, for being a part of the celebration here today. Where are you guys from Fire Station 5 back there in the back? Thank you for being here. We are here today to talk about jobs and careers, and as I said to you, some of you probably know that up until recently I was with CBS 5, so I no longer have a job, but they didn't fire me. I retired. But with this economy and my shrinking 401k, I think I'm going to be first in line when the center opens over there, because I'm going to be looking for a part-time job. So I'm really happy to see that this center is opening. This is the newest one-stop career center opening here in San Francisco today, and there are now 6 in the city. And we are so pleased to open this vital community service here in the Western Addition. For those of you who do not know, the One-Stop Career Link Centers offer a variety of free job searches. They offer career development and employment resources, all free. They offer one-stop for employment, training, and supportive services, including counseling, career and job skills assessments, job search computers, and a library of resources to help job seekers successfully land employment. Our One-Stop Career Link Center is a collaboration of the City of San Francisco, Rubicon Programs, and the local community. Together, these agencies partner to provide employment services to San Francisco job seekers and employers. Partnership is a key word here, as there are a great number of partners who work together to bring this one-stop center to this neighborhood. I am very pleased that many of those partners are here to help us celebrate this morning, and I'd like to introduce the first one to you, the mayor of our wonderful city, Mayor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, Barbara. Well, welcome. I didn't realize how many folks were behind me. Welcome, all of you, being here. And it's I didn't expect this fancy tent out here today, but I'm glad to see it. I'm just trying to figure out how much this cost us, how many jobs we could have been creating. But don't investigate that. All the reporters don't even investigate that. But it's good to be here, and it is appropriate to have a tent because it does feel more like a celebration, opening up this long overdue one-stop shop here in the Western Addition. This marks, as Barbara said, our 6th one-stop career link stop in the city. We just opened one recently in Chinatown. We have now doubled the number of one-stop shops in just the last few years, and we are continuing to invest even more money in the existing one-stop shops. In fact, we'll invest over $1 million this year just in the Western Addition for this new Link career facility. I couldn't be more proud of that investment. I want to thank so many people. I'll thank, though, just a few that deserve a tremendous amount of credit for getting us here. Rhonda Simmons, who's the head of our workforce training. Rhonda has been championing this with Supervisor Mirkarimi for well over a year and a half. Congratulations to both of you. To Trent Rohr, it took a lot of HSA money, so Trent was kind enough to support these efforts. Trent is in the back. We thank Trent as well. To a partner whose real job now begins, formally, technically began in December when we opened the doors, but we celebrate now his renewed involvement, and that's the new Housing Authority Director, Henry Alvarez, who will be very important in making sure this fulfills all of your expectations moving forward. I want to thank all the community leaders that are here for their stewardship of this process and guaranteeing that the community was truly represented in terms of the delivery of the services that are, as I said, being provided currently and will be provided for, we hope, many, many years to come. I want to also thank Rubicon and their partnership. They've been doing some extraordinary work throughout the Bay Area region, throughout Northern California, and I think it's a very big deal that Rick and his team are here in the Western Addition. Gives me a lot of confidence that this will be among the finest one-stop shops of any in the city and county of San Francisco. You know the backdrop that brings us here, and I think it's why so many of us are here. I have been to many openings in my 14 years in government. In fact, I think all but one-stop shop I have been to the opening. We haven't seen this many people in the years that we've been opening up these facilities. For all of you, you know why. Barbara, I think, exampled it quite eloquently and succinctly. But we are dealing in uncharted waters, and we are experiencing something that none of us wish to experience, hope to experience, or arguably ever have experienced. And as a consequence of that, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of concern, not just for those of you that don't have jobs, but those of you that are barely holding on to the jobs they currently have. And that's why I see hands rising, why we need to look at this one-stop shop a little bit differently than some of the others. This should be a resource for those with jobs, not just those without jobs. Those that look to increase their training, to create opportunities to get more support for new technology, new skill set, to be able to partner with programs that are being provided at a low cost or no cost in our community college system, to provide opportunities to allow people to get back into institutions of higher learning. It's not a time of life, it's a state of mind. I encourage people that could be 60, 70 years old, go back to college, move beyond just getting that high school diploma or that GED, and update their skills and go back to San Francisco State University, go back to the UC system. We shouldn't just limit ourselves to the state system. And there are all kinds of opportunities out there, but many people just don't know about them. And that's the whole idea of aggregating all those opportunities in this one stop, thus the idea of a one-stop. For those of you that seek to know what is out there, go in, again, without consideration to your career, but just think about your lives. What are you eligible for that you don't know that you're eligible for? Do you know that you have the opportunity to get free health care in San Francisco? Well, find out if you're eligible for our Healthy San Francisco program. Find out what's going on in terms of this federal stimulus and the billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that are being distributed through the state into cities, and what that means for senior nutrition programs and the opportunity to see enhancements there, the opportunities to link more food stamp support. There's $30 billion in this federal stimulus and enhancement of food stamps. And the whole idea of food stamps is changing dramatically. It's not just something to be ashamed of where you're picking up some cans of food. Quite the contrary. You can go to restaurants with food stamps, and these debit cards are very different than they were just 5, 10, 20 years ago. And the nutritional components behind our food stamps. You can go into our farmers markets now with food stamps. And those are things that we want people to be aware of and be familiar with. Again, all part of the idea and the ideals that are behind this one-stop center. We have teams of people that are committed to supporting the community. 200 people have already been supported out of this one-stop shop, and they are testament to the success of this initiative and similar initiatives throughout the city. We're going to be there for you. We're going to invest more resources into retraining and workforce development. We're going to invest more resources in targeting our outreach to those that have recently been laid off, and those, again, that are in peril of potentially being laid off. We're not going to abandon you. We're dealing with very difficult, I'll close with this, economic challenges at City Hall and a budget deficit that has actually grown beyond the worst case scenario that was announced a few months ago, and we will soon be announcing those new, more pessimistic numbers. So there are going to have to be some sacrifices. You hear that from the president, you hear that from leaders across this nation, and you need to hear that from all of us. There will need to be some sacrifices, but we're not going to do across-the-board cuts. We're not going to abandon our commitment to people. We're still, nonetheless, going to have to make decisions about programs that may no longer be providing the quality of services that they once were, or providing the type of services that they need to be providing in this economic climate. So there's going to be some controversy. But at the same time, I have tremendous optimism that in the midst of this, and there was a spirit of President Obama's speech last night, in the spirit of this crisis is an enormous amount of opportunity to come out of this much stronger, much more aligned, and building a much stronger and more cohesive community. And I know that's what this community has always been about. We can't right the wrongs of the past. That's in our rearview mirror. But we cannot forget those mistakes, and we need to learn from them and make sure that we never repeat them. And that's the spirit of the day and the spirit of the center, and I thank you all for being part of that spirit and that sense of community. Thank you all, and welcome to your new One Stop Shop.
Thank you, Mayor. The next partner I would like to introduce to you is someone who had an awful lot to do with the funding for this center. He is the supervisor for District 5, Supervisor Ross Mirkarimi.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I want to thank Rhonda Simmons, who is really, I have to say, the beacon that helped us realize this dream that we're inaugurating today. And I want to thank all the city departments who had a role in this, but in particular, I want to thank our beloved community here in the Fillmore in the Western Addition. Let me just provide a little bit of evolution as how we arrived at this particular day. When I came in office in 2005, this community was suffering from chronic distress from high crime and violent crime. And I canvassed high and low, and I knew this before even I ran for office, that where are those strategies that speak to the cliche that nothing stops a bullet like a job? Where were those strategies in place? And those one-stop centers and those job training centers that I expected to be a healthy part of San Francisco's landscape in motion were not. And those that were not held to the level of accountability that I thought that needed to be. And so we pushed hard in 2007 for the funding that helped realize the activation of this one-stop. And this is not just for the Western Addition, this is for citywide. This is speaking to the very need that communities who have been economically disadvantaged are now getting the kind of support that, quite frankly, should have been in place. I get very impassioned. And as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this issue because as we are now here celebrating the One Stop Center, we are now celebrating the fact that in this community, what was in the front page of the Chronicle a couple of weeks ago is that it's the Western Addition who's seen the greatest drop in violent crime in the last 18 months, more than any other neighborhood in the city and county of San Francisco. And this is part and parcel of the partnership that the mayor had referenced, but it's also because of the proactive strategies that we're trying to lead to reclaim our streets. Now, let's not forget that this neighborhood is unique to many of the others, and that is because we've just now retired after 40-plus years of this being under the reign of the redevelopment agency era. It was redevelopment that governed this area and also governed much of the administration of the job training and placement programs. So when I looked at Ella Hill Hutch and I looked at other facilities to see what jobs were then being disseminated and being offered, they were mostly on the construction side. Why weren't we challenging the private sector? Why were we not holding the public sector certainly much more accountable in making sure that those dollars, and I mean up to $50 million a year is what this city spends on job training and job placement, is not yielding the kind of results we wanted to. And that is why in 2007 and 2008 that we set forth workforce reform legislation so that citywide, whatever neighborhood you're at, but especially economically disadvantaged neighborhoods, we have a strategy in motion so that it is tailored to the needs of that population, whether you are speaking multiple languages, whether you are certainly a senior or a youth. It is time to design job training and job placement. And as the mayor has said, and others will say too, it certainly comes at no better time than now. With the economic downturn, with the crisis that we're facing, but it's also about recognizing what has occurred in this community over the last several decades. These institutions were not permanent. These institutions were not seated in a way that helps for generations to come. I look at this benchmark today as an important inauguration of this city's commitment with community to make sure that we do not experience again what has been experienced over the last 40+ years here in the Fillmore. And that is why I'm proud with this such strong turnout in welcoming something that we have known in our gut should have happened for a long, long time. And that is why we're celebrating here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor, for your passion and for all the work you've done for the people of District 5. Our next speaker has worked not only on the Western Addition One-Stop Center, but on the entire San Francisco one-stop system. Please welcome Rhonda Simmons, Director of Workforce Development for the San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development.
Woo! We did it. If someone would have told me 13 months ago we'd be here, I would have said, really? But we did it. It was a lot of hard work. I want to thank my boss, Mayor Gavin Newsom, and also my partner in this effort, Supervisor Mirkarimi, to make this a reality. The mayor mentioned that this is one of 6. In the last, actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if you realize, in the last year and a half, we've developed 4 new one-stops across the city. And when I first arrived 3 years ago, that was one of the primary mandates that I had, to increase access for workforce services throughout San Francisco. I worked collaboratively with a lot of folks in the audience, SFOP. I worked a lot with the folks at Ella Hill Hutch, Howard. I worked a lot with Cheryl Davis and others, London Breed, I'm not sure if she's around, redevelopment is a partner here. So the one thing that you'll get with this one-stop, it's one of our first opportunities within our city to begin to bring all our money together to do something like this. So the idea that we're facing deep budget cuts, I think we'll be able to survive because we've leveraged a lot of resources to make this happen. It's not just a redevelopment funded thing, it's a city investment thing. And with that, I think we'll have this for years to come. So thank everybody. We've been on the ground and we did it. So thank you. I would be remiss if I forgot to introduce my other partner in crime here, Reverend Arnold Townsend.
Say amen. Amen. Y'all know, a preacher, I see this kind of crowd, I want to do 2 things. Preach and take up an offering. Amen. So. And since the rain has stopped, somebody ought to have a hat. Anyway, let me say how excited I am to be here. After working in this community so many years, for us finally to have something formal and official in place that will meet the needs of people. And so many people helped to make this a reality. I work for the company that has rented the space, and let me tell you, we worked to get this a one-stop in there. You know, the city doesn't have any money, and what little money the city has, they're going to tell you they got less. And so, and quite frankly, to be very honest though, to show you the commitment, we had someone in the process before there was a deal in place come in and offer twice the money for half the square footage. And the people in our company, we sat down and talked about it, and they said, no, we've given our word, number 1. And number 2, this is important to our community. Because we realize we cannot lease space to businesses, and then the people in the community don't have jobs to frequent the businesses and to use the businesses and to shop in the businesses. And I'm really hoping that that's something the business community in our city will start to understand, that they've got to become full partners with this one-stop and start hiring from the neighborhood, start hiring people of all colors in the city, and not practice employment apartheid in San Francisco and in the Fillmore community. We must have that kind of cooperation. Now, when we started trying to rent this space, there were so many people who worked. You've heard some of them. Our supervisor, I've never seen the city move as quickly as the city did. Even though it was a struggle, even though it took some time, I know how long things usually take. And that was because we had our supervisor who was steadily punching. They should have been punch drunk from all the hits they took from his office, because I called them, and Rhonda would call them, and others would call them, and they would call the real estate department, and we made this happen. A cooperation of the city, the supervisor's office, and once again, the people in this community. I want to really thank all of you, especially those of you who are from the community here, who get it, who understand, and believe me, people are getting it. One of the things that thrills me is when I make my 2 or 3 runs to Starbucks every day, walking down that walkway to look in, that's why I'm hyper, to look at, okay, I'll move to decaf, but when I walk through and see people sit from this neighborhood, sitting and using those computers, when I walk in the office looking for somebody, and somebody from over one of the community computers hollers, "Hey Rev, what's up?" I can't tell you what it does to my heart to see that happening, because you got to understand, we're in an era where you can't even apply for a job without a computer. You can't apply for a city job without a computer. And we don't have, much to my regret, free Wi-Fi yet. We're hoping it'll happen, because one of the things we've got to learn in this city is that frequently we can be politically correct and spiritually and morally wrong by some of the decisions that we make. And we've got to move to a place to where if my time is up, you know, they got to stay on the preacher, because, you know, I want to go a long way. And there's so much more I want to tell you. But here's what I want to say to you. Everyone who's here today, if you are not involved with that one stop, if you are not sending people that you know who are looking for jobs, if you're not using it yourself, if you're not talking to the business people that you frequent, or why don't you have San Francisco workers, why don't you have Western Addition folks working this business? This thing will not work without you. Don't let today be the end, but let's let today be the beginning of all of us cooperating to make this a success. Thank you so much for giving me speech.
Well, he did warn you he was going to preach, but he didn't pass the hat, so you're...
I only did 1 out of 2.
That's right, 1 out of 2. Thank you, Ms. Simmons and Reverend Townsend. Now I would like to introduce Cheryl Davis, Director of Mo Magic here in the Western Addition. Ms. Davis has been a long-standing community advocate for Western Addition youth and has played a significant role in mentoring and connecting youth with opportunities for success.
Thank you, Barbara. I think Reverend Townsend used up some of my time, so I'll be real quick. I just want to say that I believe the One Stop is an amazing resource in this community, and everybody keeps talking about the crowd here, and I want to really, because my challenge, like Reverend Townsend, is to the community. I want to challenge the community. The crowd that's here today has to do with the community. The fact that there's this collaborative effort already happening between the One Stop and the neighborhood. Folks from Plaza East and West Side Courts and other places help pass out flyers. The One Stop is a resource of direct and indirect services. They have the services where you come in and they help you, but then there's also this piece where they're connecting with the community and they're doing what Reverend Townsend just talked about, where they need flyers passed out. They come to the community and say, you know where to take them, you know who needs the jobs, you know what needs to be done, and they're going to do that, and we appreciate that. But beyond that is the accountability, as we already saw this morning with Tina, who's not even listening in the back. Tina from Plaza East, Liz Jones from West Side Courts, who is already a client of the One Stop. Those folks from public housing are making this connection, and they're holding people accountable, and usually people are resistant. Organizations are resistant to the community coming in and saying this is the way to make it work. And already from day one, the community has been here and they've been saying this is what needs to happen, and the One Stop has been flexible and adapted to what needs to happen. We appreciate Rhonda, because when things happened and it was getting crazy, right, Reverend Woods? Yeah. She called a meeting and she dealt with it. And I think that in order for this one stop to work, we have to keep doing that. It has to be both ways. So I'm hoping that when we leave here, if there's something wrong, people don't stand on the street corner and complain about it, but they reach out to the one stop, they reach out to the community members, the service providers, the public housing residents. Everybody has already pulled together to make this happen. But to continue making it happen, the merchants have to refer folks to the one stop, and then when they look for people to employ, they have to go to the one stop. Community members, we have to refer folks who say I can't find a job to the one stop. So my challenge today is, this is great. We want to see you all here, not just today, but every day, and we want the one stop to be on your lips from this day forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis, and the organizers have asked me to remind the rest of our speakers to please be brief. We are on sort of a time deadline here. Up next, please welcome Reverend Cynthia Joseph Robinson, the Associate Minister at Bethel AME and a local organizer with the San Francisco Organizing Project, SFOP, a key partner in the One Stop Center. Reverend Robinson has been a community resident for 8 years and a community advocate for 15. Please welcome Reverend Robinson.
Thank you, Barbara. First, I'd like to thank city officials, state officials, if there are any present, Rubicon, community partners, and everyone in our community who gave us support as we pursued our goals. SFOP is a faith-based organization made up of 30 congregations and schools representing 40,000 families throughout San Francisco. We are working together to make San Francisco a city for all. In November 2005, we launched our Avenues of Hope campaign entitled "Nothing Stops a Bullet Like a Job." And it was 1,300 persons attended in action. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, Mayor Newsom, our notorious Supervisor Mirkarimi, and school board members. I love this man, he's a sweet person. And our school boards, representatives, and supervisors. All of these people were in attendance of this action. And during this time, gun violence had reached a 10-year high. Our campaign sought to end violence by ensuring that all of our young people have access to job training and jobs. The Bethel Local Organizing Committee held strategy sessions with city officials, community-based organizations, city programs supported by the mayor. We also held 2 actions for the purpose of getting to the bottom of the workforce problem and unemployment in our community. The opening of this one stop is a very important step from all of that work. Therefore, we must continue our fight because many of our young people have lost their lives. I myself have lost a son to gun violence. He was 24 when he died. As I speak today, my son's oldest child is in the hospital. He was shot 5 times with a machine gun. This is why we are fighting to make sure every young adult age 18 through 30 have access to job training, re-entry programs, and jobs. It is imperative that this one-stop form partnerships with organizations that will have a good GED preparatory program, a job readiness program, form partnerships with community-based organizations who have a good rapport with our community. It must form a partnership with our schools and our leaders, our clergy. It must be consistent in forming partnerships throughout the Western Addition. For the people in the Western Addition and Bethel local organizers and SFOP will hold everyone and this one stop accountable for the things we just mentioned. We are counting on you to be a full service one stop because our future and our children's future are dependent on it. Again, I say thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Robinson, and our prayers are with your grandson and your family at this time. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Reverend Ronaldo Woods, a lifelong Fillmore resident. Reverend Woods has worked on violence prevention in the Western Addition for many years as an associate minister at Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church. He is the chairman and CEO of Up From Darkness and has been a great advocate and leader in the community. Please welcome Reverend Woods.
Sister Rogers, thank you for that kind, gracious introduction. To the Honorable Mayor of San Francisco, Mayor Gavin Newsom, to the 5th District Supervisor Ross Mirkarimi, to the Executive Director of Rubicon, Jane Fishberg, to the amazing Deputy Director of Workforce Development, Rhonda Simmons, and to you, the residents of the Western Addition, aka the Fillmore. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you this day. I would be less than honest if I didn't tell you it has been a long 2-year journey of skirmishes, fires, finger pointing, and battles, but the end result surely, in this case, justifies the means. Today we have a precious opportunity of relationship building that brings the sweet taste of cohesiveness to an otherwise devastated community. One of the most prolific, bold, risky, visionary people programs of the 21st century is Rubicon. The past is gone, the lights are on, and the stage is set. Just let me share for a moment one of the many success stories that I believe will greatly multiply the emergence of this one stop. A young man came to us 2 years ago, $50,000 behind in his child support, homeless, afflicted by chemicals, and afraid. After our job readiness process, the $50,000 debt has been cleared. His driver's license returned. He has a full-time union job and a part-time job. These are the goals of the One Stop to turn fear into success. One Stop is here, and I'm glad about it. Let us all join in partnership with the One Stop to bring the economic reconstruction to this community. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Woods, and thank you for being brief. And also, your work on this project is greatly appreciated by the community. We've heard from many of the partners who have brought us this far. Please welcome a future partner, Randy Withrop, Public Affairs Director at Kaiser Permanente.
Close enough. Thank you. I just want to say I really appreciate being invited to be a part of today. First, I want to congratulate Rubicon and the City of San Francisco for achieving this milestone. This is really an important day for this community. Right now, we're in really challenging economic times, but that makes investing in our communities even more important. People need assistance getting back in the workforce, and the One Stop is a creative and innovative way to do that, to provide that assistance. As a representative of Kaiser Permanente, I feel qualified to say that part of the cure for the economically challenging times we're dealing with is investing in our communities. And I congratulate everybody who's been a part of this for making that investment. We look forward to partnering with the One Stop When the economy starts to pick up again, and I'm an optimist, I think it's going to sooner rather than later, we will need to hire people at Kaiser Permanente for our jobs. And we're thrilled to see this resource, which is truly a win-win situation. It will bring people into the jobs that we have in the future, and it will help us bring those jobs to the community. So I applaud everybody who's been a part of this project and look forward to a partnership with One Stop in the future. Thank you. Okay, I was actually just informed that I'm supposed to introduce the next speaker, Jane Fishberg from Rubicon.
Thank you so much, Randy. We're really looking forward to growing our partnership with you. I'm Jane Fishberg. I'm the Executive Director of Rubicon Programs, and Rubicon is so excited and so honored to be here, joining with all of you in opening San Francisco's newest one-stop Career Link Center here in the Western Addition. Thank you to all of you for joining us in this very, very special celebration. I have a lot of thank yous to make, and then we're going to go to the center itself and cut the ribbon, the moment we've all been waiting for. I'd like to start my thank yous with our wonderful MC, Barbara Rogers. Thank you so much. And to all of today's speakers, all of whom have been critical partners in making this center happen. I know I speak for everyone at the One Stop when I say we couldn't have done this without the unwavering support of everyone here today. Starting with our Mayor Gavin Newsom, our estimable Supervisor Mirkarimi. Thank you to both of you for your leadership in this effort, and of course to Rhonda Simmons and everyone at the San Francisco Mayor's Office of Economic and Workforce Development. Thank you for your trust and support. We are extremely grateful to the Western Addition business community and all of our new neighbors, including many, but I do need to call out Howard Smith and Ella Hill Hutch Center for welcoming us to the area, along with all the speakers who've come today. And I absolutely am thrilled to thank our fabulous Rubicon staff for their hard work in opening the center and for planning today's celebration. Thank you to all of you for joining us in the celebration this morning. Please join me for the ribbon cutting and official opening of the San Francisco One Stop Career Link Center in the Western Addition.